The messages we receive from the public, I do understand that they can't really get their heads around, especially the ownership and the transfer of the shares from Vitals to Stewards.
But basically, Leah, the chronology of what has happened is essentially as follows. The government of Malta decided in the year that you stated to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Vitals Group. What is a memorandum of understanding? A memorandum of understanding is a sort of undertaking whereby the parties to that memorandum, in this case the government of Malta and Vitals Group, are agreeing on something. In this case, they are agreeing that the government of Malta is going to pass over onto Vitals the running of the 3 hospitals that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. And
this is already a bit strange. This is strange. Why is it strange? Because when you are dealing with public procurement, when you are paying taxpayers' money, there is a process, and this process usually is that a tender is issued, parties are invited to tender and to submit their offers. An evaluation committee is set up to see which of these tenderers deserves, on the basis of various criteria established in tender document, to take over the running of the hospitals. In this case, we have this strange situation, which is the situation whereby even before Vitals are given this tender, even before the evaluation committee, which was set up, run by people from XWT, which really says it all, have already signed a document whereby the government is undertaking, agreeing as to how this operation of the run of the hospitals.
On hindsight, can any action be taken about the legalities of the way this first contract was awarded?
Yes, in fact, action has already been taken, not by the government of Malta. The action was taken by the leader of the opposition, who instituted a court case in Maltese courts in order to obtain a declaration from the Maltese courts that this contract ought never to have been signed. And it was not signed following the proper procedures and the proper avenues that should be followed when one is entering into a contract like this. Mm-hmm. Not only, we have also discovered recently, this is a bit that notwithstanding the fact that there was a court case pending whereby the leader of the opposition was bringing an action in order to have this agreement annulled and in order for the hemorrhage of money that is being paid, first provided, that the stewards does not continue, we found out that after this case was filed, the government of Malta signed another agreement, this time with Steward, who had in the meantime taken over from Vitals, whereby this agreement provides that the government undertakes that should this contract be annulled, and therefore the contract is terminated, for example, as a result of the decision of the court, the basis of the application, the action filed by the leader of the opposition, Steward are going to be paid simply for the that it's been annulled, irrespective of the fact that it's annulled, because it's a leak in the first place, the sum of no less than 100 million euros.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us, would you know, or is it public information, if there were any local interested parties at that time, the original contract?
There is no knowledge which we can say is hard proof. There are only suspicions, but the suspicions per se do not amount to a knowledge of whether there were other interested parties from the local scene.
Mm-hmm. In October 2017, again on the public domain, Vitals themselves made a comment that they were specializing in the creation of sustainable healthcare systems to deliver high quality, comprehensive and patient-focused healthcare services. And we know that this isn't exactly their track record. So there's a lot of misinformation even on the public domain. One thing, when you go on the websites, there was obviously the transfer of the contract from Vitals to Stewards. But when you go onto the websites of Stewards, there are three. There's a website that is stewards.org, another one that's Stewards Malta, and the third that's Stewards International. But for some reason, St. Luke's Hospital is not evident anywhere on any of those websites. We've got Karen Grech, and we've also got the Gozo Hospital. Now, St. Luke's is a listed building, so it's obviously got quite a lot of value as a building itself. Was there any reason for that?
Well, have to ask that question to Stewards, but there is absolutely no doubt that the contract that was given out of taxpayers' monies to Vitals to run hospitals included also St. Luke's Hospital. And the transfer that was from Vitals to Stewards was a transfer which transferred lock, stock and barrel that Vitals had acquired, and which therefore also included St. Luke's Hospital. If Stewards have not included St. Luke's Hospital as part of hospitals that they are managing on the basis of their agreement in their website, is something to which I personally cannot answer. Stewards can perhaps enlighten us further. The fact there is a contractual obligation on Stewards to also refurbish, improve, and do all the necessary works that need to be done, even in St. Luke's Hospital.
Yeah.
Respect the fact whether they have mentioned it in the website or not.
It's not mentioned anywhere, so I don't know if it's a question of human error. In February 2018, the Times...
It's a question of human error. It's worrying that the Stewards make an error in their website that leave out responsibility.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. In February 2018, the Times of Malta reported that Steward Healthcare finalized a deal with Vitals to deliver exceptional healthcare to the people of Malta. It was also alleged at that time that Steward bought a majority stake in Vitals. What are your comments about that?
Well, that is the moment in time when Vitals transferred the rights which they had in the contract they had signed with the government of Malta onto Steward. That is the moment in time when basically Vitals profited on their original agreement with the government of Malta, whereby instead of undertaking themselves as Vitals to run the hospitals, to improve the hospitals, to carry out refurbishments in the hospitals, and get paid by the Maltese government, they transferred this right to Steward. And that is the moment in time when Vitals made their very substantial profit.
Can I ask, I mean, the relationship again with Stewards and Stewards Malta, Stewards International and Stewards Malta, is it a partnership? Is Stewards Malta an entity on its own? Do you know how it works?
Well, no, I do not know how it works. I would presume, and common sense would dictate, that a separate entity, commercial entity, would have been created in order to deal with the contract related to the running and the refurbishment and the works needed in the Maltese hospitals. Steward is an international company that, as opposed to Vitals, does provide health services. What is unfortunate, in fact, is that although Steward is a company that does provide health services, it has in reality to date failed to live up to the obligations that it has undertook to live up to when it bought out Vitals. But yes, to your question, the answer would be that the probability, yes, would be that a separate entity would have been created to run the Maltese operation. However, I am not 100% sure if this has happened. Common sense and commercial sense would dictate that this would be the approach that they would.
And I believe,
Ultimately, whether they have a Maltese entity or not is really and truly irrelevant. What is relevant is that stewards, be it the Maltese entity, be it the international entity, have taken upon themselves, have assumed upon themselves to carry out for a payment from our taxpayers' money, from my money, our money, everybody's money, to carry out what Vitals was meant to carry out. So if this is a Maltese entity or an international entity, the point remains that the obligations remain the same.
Thank you very much, Dr. Giglio. I've got a lot of questions for you, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you very much. I was with Dr. Joe Giglio. Dr. Joe Giglio, who's a top criminal lawyer. The plot thickens. Thank you for your questions and your comments. I will see you tomorrow at 5:40. Good night.